Hello and welcome back to the Little Scale Cars YouTube channel. Today in the review box we have an exciting one. We have the Tarmac Works Pagani Huayra R. This is the first release of it, and it is done in a cool color called Nero Oro. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at this one and see if it is worth adding to your collection. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at our casting. So our proportions are really nice. True 1/64th scale, if I had to say, of a Huayra R. A little bit long. I'm not going to say that's inaccurate or anything. I'm just noting that the Huayra R is longer than I expected it to be. We'll go ahead and put the real-life car up in the top right corner so you can see them side by side. And then let's go ahead and look at what is plastic and what's not. So our entire base is all metal. Our skirt is metal, and pretty much everything else is metal that you would normally expect it to be. However, as always, our mirrors are plastic. Our rear wing is also plastic in this case. And then, actually, our roof section here, including the roof scoop, this is all plastic as well. It's got a little bit of a different sound to it, and it's also not as cold as the actual die-cast sections are. That's not a bad thing that's plastic, but it is just something to make a note of. Some cool little details that are actually casted in. Our headlights are casted in. They are not a plastic insert. Our dive plane here is casted in. It is also not any kind of additional piece. And then our gas cap here is even casted in as well. Obviously, it's got a little paint dot there too. Moving on to the booty regions, we will find that this entire exhaust system is all kind of an insert inside there on the interior bits. And then our diffuser here is a piece of the base, so it is also metal as well. And that should just about wrap up the casting. For our paint and deco, so this one is similar to a real-life car, but as far as I can tell, this actual paint is not an accurate paint color. This deco is supposed to be on like a carbon fiber example. From what I can tell, it's possible this is real, but I have not been able to find a picture of it. That being said, though, the actual color itself is fantastic. It is called Nero Oro, and in the right light, you can really see the metal flake in there shining. It almost looks gold in certain lighting. Like, it looks really cool. So, despite that the paint itself may not be accurate, that's not necessarily a bad thing because it does look really, really good. And then the other big things, we have our Huayra R right there, tampoed on there. We have an Italian flag, our number 1. Up front, we have the number 1 as well. And then this gold striping kind of pattern going through. Now, this gold striping is accurate to a real-life car, but again, it's more on like a carbon fiber looking example. And then we have our Pagani back there. I'll go ahead and put this down and put the carbon fiber-ish looking one that I've been telling you about up in the corner somewhere, so you can just kind of see what this is supposed to emulate without giving us all the carbon details. So for our detail department, as we mentioned earlier, our headlights are casted. They aren't a plastic insert, but with how small they are, it's really not a big deal on this release. They are painted in there. There's little silver dots, so that looks good. On our intakes up here, there is no kind of meshing. There's just like our Zonda R casting. There's no meshing inside of there. And as you can see, this little piece here does not extend all the way back. You can actually fit this toothpick in behind it, which is interesting. Also, on the splitter here, there's some sort of like blob. I'm not really sure what that's supposed to emulate, but it is on every example. It is not just on mine. I've seen several pictures of people also have that on theirs. Not really sure if it's supposed to be a tow hook or what it's supposed to be, but an interesting little thing. Moving down to the sides here, we do have a little etch detailed on this bit here. Our wheels look fantastic. They are accurate to the car. I just love the blacked out look. It just matches with this car really nicely. Gas cap is painted on like we mentioned earlier. Not a big difference on this side, except for we do also have a gas cap there. Maybe that's not a gas cap. Maybe I don't actually know what that is. But whatever it is casted in. It looks good. From the top, we don't have these little connector pieces where the bodywork connects painted like we did on the Zonda R releases. So that's kind of an interesting thing to make note of. And then if we go to the back section here, We do have our taillights sort of painted. They're silver, which I think is a little bit odd. Our rear wing does have the silver tips on the edges, which actually I think looks fantastic. And then looking inside there, we do have our exhaust is painted white, which I assume is accurate to the real-life car. And then we even have some bracing and brackets going in there for taking a deeper look into the engine bay. And it really came out pretty nice. Moving into our roll test. Does it roll? Yes, it does. It rolls actually extremely smooth. I would say it rolls on par with a Hot Wheels Premium model. For our pros and cons, the first big pro is this is the first 1/64th Huayra R that's made it to collections, and it's pretty good for what we get. There is an LCD model coming out. I would assume in the details category that one is going to blow this one out of the water. However, it's also going to be probably about twice the price. So if you do want a slightly more detailed version that probably doesn't roll quite as well, LCD is going to have you covered there if you're willing to wait a little while longer. That being said, though, the other big pro is this paint. I remember I mentioned that it's not necessarily accurate to one that I can find a picture of, but whew, I don't even care because it looks fantastic. The metal flake in there just works so well. Under certain lighting, it can look almost brown. It can look almost gold. It's a really good paint choice. The other big pro is actually this new packaging. So as you can see, there's no longer a window in there, which means that nobody knows until this car gets opened whether it's a chase model or not, which is really nice. You're no longer going to have to deal with every single chase piece of a Tarmac being scalped unless you just happen to get lucky and get one off the Tarmac web store. If you order from a hobby dealer or if you get them from a local hobby dealer, you're going to have just as good of a shot at getting a chase model without having to pay extra for it, essentially. For our cons department, there's really only one massive one that I can think of, and it's just the lack of any carbon fiber detailing. So if this were like mini GT release, I think that we would definitely have gotten some carbon detailing, probably on the diffuser, maybe on the splitter, maybe on the wing, maybe on the skirts. Somewhere we would have gotten carbon detailing. We might have, like I mentioned, this car has a full carbon look with this deco. So we might have even gotten the whole body done in carbon for around the same price. I've been saying this before with Tarmac. Sometimes it feels like we're paying more and getting less when compared to like a mini GT. And this is just one example where I think some carbon fiber could have just put it right over the top. For some quick size comparisons, here we have it next to the Tarmac Works Huayra BC and the Hot Wheels Standard Huayra. And here we have it next to some Zondas that you might have, the Tarmac Works Pagani Zonda R and the Hot Wheels Pagani Zonda R. And here we have it next to some other track monsters with the Mini GT Bugatti Vision GT and the Kyosho Ferrari FXXK. So with that, it is now time for my final thoughts. Overall, I'm going to give this one a 9.8 out of 10. So this one is basically perfect. I really cannot wait for more versions of it to come out. I am personally going to skip the green one, however, because I don't think the green one looks particularly great. That color is just not my favorite. The only real gripe I have, the only wish, I guess I would say, the only thing holding it back from a perfect 10 out of 10 is I really wish we had gotten some carbon fiber details. Mostly maybe on the wing or on the diffuser or something. It's just somewhere to give us just a little bit more pop, just a little bit more detail, just to put it that much over the edge, just a touch. But with that little gripe out of the way, this one is fantastic. It's definitely worth adding to your collection. Go ahead and pick it up. Even if you want a more detailed version and you're just going to wait for the LCD model, I still think that this one is definitely going to look very nice on your shelf right alongside it, and it's one of Tarmac Works' best in the Global 64 line. And that will wrap up this review, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit the like button down below. Make sure you subscribe if you are new. And go ahead and leave a comment telling me what your thoughts are on this particular model. And I will see you in the next video.